Masked youths set up barricades, lit fires and pelted riot police with bottles, bricks and fireworks in protest. Serves them right, one of my Year 11s yelled when we picked up the discussion at the beginning of the autumn term. Who is them? I queried. The police, miss. They lied about the boy swallowing drugs. The officer who killed him hasn't been sacked. So of course people will be angry and want to riot and mash up the place. But what about the community? I added. We don't own or control the community, miss. Isaiah, one of my AG&T boys, chipped in. It ain't ours, he continued. Gentrification isn't for our benefit. The boroughs are commissioning new builds in the inner cities and commissioning a small portion to social housing. But they're placing those homes at the back of properties with no access to the posh reception areas. The council want us out. The young people who are writing weren't mashing up anything that belonged to us, so they ain't going to feel no way. My dad said there's no love for young people in the community, so for them to feel warmth, they'll burn it down. A large portion of the class began to clap excitedly. Isaiah's nonchalant attitude and the support it received made my heart sink. I was sad at the fact that this was the feeling of doom from our youth. Well, as far as I'm aware, the area where Rashan died is a community, I countered firmly. Don't you think that the shopkeeper, by giving the CCTV to the family and not the police, is an example of that? He better watch it, they'll be after him next, a student jumped in. I continued. Most of those rioters were clad in balaclavas, and they often are people who come from outside the area to make trouble and their presence felt. Smashing up shops, destroying cars and public places is not what I consider to be positive action. To ensure that black people gained equal rights under US law, the civil rights movement in the 1950s and 60s chose to stage non-violent protests and civil disobedience through sit-ins and boycotts, which crippled the establishment economically. But miss, if we refused to get off the 149 bus, the driver would call the police and we'd be back to square one, a student responded. Boycotting was in the olden days, miss, another student continued. The reality is CCTV or no CCTV. Young black boys don't stand a chance when it comes to the feds. We have to have faith in the criminal justice system, I interjected. Rashan's family have been quoted as saying what they're looking for is a fair and transparent investigation, where the people involved are accountable for their actions. With the CCTV evidence that we've all seen, I can't see how this will not happen, I confidently stated. 6 months later, the news reported that the CPS confirmed that the police officer in Rash's CCTV video would not face charges for his death. They had considered a common assault charge, but felt the evidential test for a prosecution was not met. Therefore, they'd not be taking further action. You said the boy's family would get justice! Mushed directed the comment at me. I was organising poetry worksheets at my desk. The police can't never be held to account, Isaiah answered. My dad said if you prosecute one officer, the rest will argue that they don't feel confident in their jobs for fair prosecution. So it's well known within the police that nothing can happen to them. They can behave like they're untouchable, even kill people and get away with it. That's not true, I yelled. The class went silent. It wasn't fair to shout at a bunch of 15-year-olds just because I didn't have the answers to their questions. When I read the news the night before about the police officer not being prosecuted, I was horrified. How could that be? I was angry and frustrated because I wasn't able to honestly quell the boys' fears. I stopped the lesson 5 minutes before the end and spoke to the class. I apologise for raising my voice earlier. The truth is, I don't have the answers you may be looking for. There are most likely things we don't know about the case, and also areas of law that we're not familiar with. But I have an idea of how we can explore this further. So if you're interested, meet me outside my office at the beginning of lunch. Are you sorting food, miss? Cheeky Adrian piped in. Why not? I laughed, and they left for the next lesson. At lunchtime, 5 boys showed up. I want you to hold on to your questions, thoughts and feelings about this case and put all that energy into a piece of writing. Each of you are going to write a letter and address it to the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police in London, Cressida Dick, and the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. Their eyes lit up. "Are they really going to read it, miss?" Nathaniel asked. "I'm going to make sure your feelings about this are read by as many people as possible," I promised. Here's an amalgamation of writing from 5 15-year-old boys. They're excerpts of their thoughts and feelings on what they deem to be an injustice. At the time they wrote these letters, the Rashan Charles inquest had not yet occurred. Dear Cresta Dick and Sadiq Khan. Adrian, can you feel at peace when you hear the following names? Rashan Charles, Edson DeCosta, Sarah Reid, Sheikh Ubeyu, Mies Mohammed, Sean Rigg, Julian Cole, Kingsley Burrell, Christopher Alder, Jimmy Mabega. Can you honestly say you have ensured measures are in place so members of the public feel safe? Have you done enough to ensure justice is served for victims of police brutality? Have you supported the families, loved ones, and the communities of these victims? Nathaniel, I am 15 years old and angry. Too many of my brothers are dying at the hands of the organisation that's been created to protect me, the police. Mr. Khan, you've been telling young people that London needs us alive. Why? To be suffocated by white memory badges with a licence to kill? I'm not shocked that the officer we saw on the CCTV was not charged. Even one of your ex-superintendents, Mr. Leroy Logan, had criticised the decision not to charge the officer. This is not the first time excessive force has been used on a black man, and no one is held accountable, and I'm sure it won't be the last. Bradley, you don't have to be an expert to question the force that was used. It was way too excessive. The boy was in handcuffs when the officer's arm was around his neck, and there was even someone sitting on his back. How's a man supposed to breathe? I don't believe the police are trying to prevent him harming himself after he'd swallowed something. I read that he should have been given urgent medical attention. I didn't see no CPR being carried out, or did I miss that bit? I feel the feds and the press demonise victims as drug dealers or gang members so the public can blame them for their own deaths. When Mark Duggan was shot by police in Tottenham, the press put out stories he shot the police first. That was lies. It's disgusting. When lies are published, the public believe it, and it's hard to take it back. Isaiah. I've been stopped and searched 3 times. I'm only 15. I was with my friends and we were spoken to rudely. Our school books were thrown out of our rucksacks, and one officer asked my mate where the money came from to buy his Nike ends. Another officer asked us where we'd hidden our knives. I just shut my mouth because I wanted to get home safely. If that's what makes me moist, then whatever. I can hold my anger, but it's hard. The officer getting away with Rashan's murder is a joke. It's like there's one rule for black people, another rule for the police. Black lives don't matter. My faith in the justice system is 0. And I can say this is the same for my mates. I've been mugged but never reported it. What's the point? If I felt my life was in danger, calling 999 would be the last thing I do. I do not trust the police, neither does my father or my grandfather. On the 20th of June 2018, at St Pancras Coroner's Court in London, a jury found the death of Rashan Charles was an accident following a justified use of force. They believed he died of a cardiac arrest caused by upper airway obstruction by a foreign body while being restrained. They said the police officer did not follow Metropolitan Police protocol by taking immediate and appropriate action in the face of a medical emergency, and they recognised he had not managed the involvement of a civilian bystander, but concluded these factors were not significant and Rashan's life was not salvageable in any event. When Rashan Charles' inquest started, my Year 11 boys were on GCSE study leave. When the verdict was decided, 11 days later, the students had left secondary education. I felt relieved that I did not have to continue the discourse with the boys around the jury's judgment, because it would have been very difficult for me to remain professional. Sleep in peace, Rashan Charles. Doppy no who fi frighten. People will take advantage of those who are vulnerable.